Hello and welcome to 313 Connect on the Leggy Sports YouTube channel. Today we have a lot of stuff going on. Pistons with the most meaningful basketball they've probably played since my time as a fan. We're going to be talking about that, a bunch of more things. The Fantastic Four trailer came out, looked nice. But today we have Brennan Sims on, fantastic writer for the Pistons. We have Sean Murphy, credentialed media member. What's going on, guys?
Boys, what's happening? Happy playoff weekend to those who celebrate. Those in Detroit are going to be doing a whole lot of celebrating this weekend. It is the best time of the year to be a basketball fan. Excited to dive into it.
The absolute best time of the year, man. It's a holiday. Love this Saturday. I always look forward to it. So, yeah, can't wait to jump into it.
Yeah, Brennan, I want to talk to you for a minute because we know you're a Pistons fan because we're on a Pistons podcast, obviously. But we also know you're a Miami fan. You're going through it right now. So I'm assuming you have the game on right there, and you're kind of tuning in. It's OT, 2:40 left, according to NBA.com. What do you think's going to happen?
Hopefully we win, man. Like, I know it's been one of the worst seasons. Like, we had that 10-game losing streak, the Jimmy Butler fiasco. And I know some draft implications. Like, if we win, then we lose some picks in the upcoming future. But I kind of don't care. Like, seeing this team kind of rally around each other the last 2 weeks of the season, let's just make the playoffs. Yeah. If we lose to Cleveland 4-1, so what?
Part of the weight is Brendan was having heart palpitations to Trae Young, trying to end his season and break his heart.
Tyler Hero breaking it too, missing free throws, but hopefully he comes through in overtime. But yeah, man, I am scared. But again, I just want to see my boys get in there, man. Win or lose, I want to see them get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I've been setting up this stream for a little bit, so I haven't been able to tune in. I'm looking at the box score right now, and yeah, you can call me a box score watcher for sure. But Zachary Risacher, 1 for 11, 3 points, -8 right now. Not a big impact in probably the biggest game of his young career so far, but one player that's currently, lighting it up for Miami, Tyler Hero, 30 points. He was just at 27 before I refreshed. 10 of 21, 5 of 10. A lot of people were curious after Jimmy Butler left if he'd be able to be the guy to kind of handle the weight. So, we're not going to get too deep into it, Brennan. But what are your thoughts on Hero going forward? Like, do you think he can kind of be that centerpiece of this Miami team?
Centerpiece, like as in the go-to guy for a championship team, I don't see that right now. Just kind of because his limitations, kind of with his hand. I'm talking about like as a star. He's a all-star, but like as a superstar number one option, probably not. But I think he is a great player that can play off of somebody, like with that sharpshooter and that confidence that he has. So I think he is a high-level number 2 on a great team, and that's kind of with his handle limitation. If he keeps improving with his handles and getting to the rack a little bit better, maybe he can be a number 1, but I'm pretty firm on he's probably a high-end number 2 on a championship-level team.
Yeah.
High good end number 2, elite number 3.
Yes, that's kind of what I see, especially when you see an offensive player with such a skill set that he has. You have to be damn elite at scoring to be able to be a number 2 at least. So, at that number 2, I think you're going to want a little bit more all-around play, especially on the defensive end on both sides of the ball. But moving on from Miami, because this is a Pistons podcast, guys. Sorry for getting off there. I just needed to ask Brennan. Well, what's the score right now, actually? 120. Oh, Miami looks like they're going to take it. So congrats to you, Brennan. I'm giving you a little clap. Everyone in the chat, give them a little clap here. But what I want to clap for is the Fantastic Four trailer came out. And some people might live and die by the early 2000s version, which me and my wife watched those 3 or 4 days ago. Those were awesome. They should have made a universe with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, with Hugh Jackman Wolverine. They should have mixed the X-Men all up in there. They didn't. This trailer looked great. And Sean, you didn't do your homework, man. We talked before. You didn't watch the trailer.
Boys. I messed up. There's no other way of putting it. My Discord profile pictures for like the last 4 months have been Ben Grimm. I even changed it to the new one that went viral yesterday. I was like, you know what? I saw it's up. I want to make sure. I wanted to wait and watch it on the biggest screen that I have in my home, which is my TV right in the living room. And somehow, some way, that was too complicated for me because I have yet to watch it, heard nothing but great things. I will be there seated in the theaters, opening night. Pedro Pascal has become an automatic view for me. So, regardless, but yeah, no, I loved the first Fantastic Four movie. I hated the second Fantastic Four movie.
No Silver Surfer?
I didn't even bother watching the 2015 one.
No, I didn't.
So seeing it actually get the proper Marvel shine and Marvel treatment, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, if we're talking about Pistons as the Fantastic Four, there's a lot of options, a lot of ways you could go. I've been racking my brain around this all day. Let's start with The Thing. Have you guys thought about who would be a good fit there? I have one I think is pretty unique, but I kind of want to hear what you guys have going on.
Yeah, I think that the obvious one would be Stu. You know, kind of the strength. And Ben is kind of a nice guy when he's not the Thing. But I don't know Stu personally. Like, he might be the nicest guy off the court, you know? A lot of times, tough guys on the floor, that's their persona, you know, sticking up for their teammates. But off the court, they're some of the nicest people. So I think the obvious answer will be Stu for the Thing, but I'm interested to see where you went with it, Leggy.
Yeah, I went Tobias Harris. So I think by style, I wouldn't really agree. But I think by perception, you watching that first Fantastic Four movie, you see him become the Thing. You see him run all around. Everyone hates him. He's on the bridge saving people, and people are like, what the hell are you doing, man? The police are out there pointing guns right at him. I mean, Tobias Harris, during his time in Philly, was hated. Nobody gave him what he was worth. Like, nobody thought of him any highly at all. And then the moment he's starting to go to a good team and he joins this squad and kind of brings them together, kind of that soul of them, kind of this Piston squad, people are loving him. So that's kind of my out-of-the-box one there. Sean, did you kind of have the same sort of Stu vibe there?
I like that, Leggy.
Yeah, Leggy, that's really creative. I really like your answer. It's got to be Isaiah Stewart here. I mean, as someone that's been around him in person, that nice guy, like the reputation thing, the getting a bad rap and being misunderstood element is most certainly Isaiah Stewart. But at the same time, he's the guy that you do not want to be on the wrong end of in an interaction, because there are very few guys that can beat him from a toughness factor throughout the league. He's the immovable force. He's the immovable object, but he's also the teddy bear under that rock chiseled surface. So
yeah,
I think it's got to be Isaiah Stewart. By the way, did you hear his song that he came out with earlier this week?
It was nice.
Like, it's low key a bop. I gotta give him credit where credit's due.
It give me Top Shotter vibes with the kind of the reggae inspiration. So yeah, I liked it. Cool.
Yep.
So the one other I could potentially say for the Thing, and this is thinking out of the box, is Asar Thompson, because if you're thinking of the stopper in the first movie, and I know I'm lore dropping a lot here, but you're talking about the Thing was the one who stopped Dr. Doom in that first movie. He was the one that when he got turned back into the Thing after being not the Thing, he was the one who went in there and did the business. So moving forward, who do you guys want to go with next? I think Mr. Fantastic might be kind of an easy one here. I mean, do you guys want to go that way? You want to go the Susan Storm?
I mean, I just can't get over you saying did the business. I think Mr. Fantastic is absolutely an easy route to go. I mean, it's Cade Cunningham, right? Like the leader of the Fantastic Four, the guy who can do it all, the one who can stretch himself to limits that a lot of people can't. I mean, when you think of like the absolute like quintessential like Reed Richards face of the franchise, it's Cade Cunningham, right? Like that's you pencil that one in, you feel good about it, you bring it to Stan Lee, you go home, you're feeling pretty good at the end of the night.
Yeah, I kind of cheated with Reed Richards. I kind of had two players.
Good.
So obviously with
one's Reed and one's Richards. What are you doing, Brennan?
Yeah.
Did you read the comics?
Obviously, right.
It's
obviously with the high IQ and the decision making stuff, you know, you go Cade, you know, because Reed is one of the smartest beings in Marvel Universe. But in terms of the elastic part of it, with Asar's athleticism, man, it's like the way he stretches out for like chase downs, and I think it was the game against Cleveland, maybe. But he just floated up and got this block, and it just looked like I don't know. It was so effortless, like he just stretched up there and landed so gracefully. So athleticism, kind of is like Reed's ability to stretch and do anything, basically.
You
Yeah,
see, I
Cade
had
is
Asar as the Human Torch because
Interesting.
he's the guy. He's the guy that 1 second he's on one end of the court, the other he's completely somewhere else.
You can
You
go a
know?
lot of
So,
different directions with any of these because if I'm
yep.
thinking of the Human Torch, the first thing that comes to mind is shooting, and I'm not thinking of Asar Thompson in
yeah,
that regard.
too.
I mean, some
Yeah.
people would say Malik Beasley. I'd almost say Tim
That-
Hardaway Jr. because when he is hot, he is on, and that's been historically his motto throughout his career.
You see,
I did a video a few days ago talking about like what people thought the Pistons would be going into this year. And one person in the comments preseason on Reddit was talking about how Tim Hardaway Jr. will have an 0 for 11 game from three and then have a 45-point game primarily on threes. That didn't happen. But that just kind of shows with the Human Torch, he's on sometimes, he's off sometimes, he's smart sometimes, he's really dumb. I mean, that's kind of the character he is. But, I mean, that's kind of my take with that one.
I kind of went Beasley.
Yeah.
And hearing you talk about the Human Torch being kind of inconsistent, Beasley's shot selection can be considered kind of questionable sometimes, but he's that type of shooter that can make those shots. So the Human Torch definitely, Johnny Storm has definitely made a lot of questionable decisions, but like when he's rolling, he is one of the MVPs of that team. So like you said, again, hot and being a shooter, that's kind of why I went with Beasley for the Human Torch.
see, I went with Beasley as the Invisible Man because you don't want to lose him on the 3-point line.
Ooh.
Otherwise, he's going to make you pay. So that was kind of the justification I went with there. But you could literally do, like you said. This is a completely arbitrary, made up topic. We could do
100%.
literally anything with it, but
Yeah.
like there is a lot of different angles you could look at this from.
Yeah, Invisible Man. Susan Storm.
Invisible Woman, but in this
Invisible-
case, it would be an Invisible
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I got you, Sean.
because
I
men.
got
But
you,
anyway,
Sean.
you know what I mean.
Who I would go with for that is Marcus Sasser because he's kind of the guy that gets overlooked a little bit. If you're a diehard Pistons fan, you watch every game, you kind of know what he can do. But if you're a casual fan, if you're a person who just turns on maybe 25 games throughout the season, you're not going to know who Marcus Sasser is and what he does. Because when he's on the court and when he gets his shot through injury, through whatever the situation is, he's always on fire. So maybe you could say the Human Torch as well. But for Marcus Sasser, for me, it's about the overlookedness. I made that word up for that. Yes.
Yeah, I've been racking my brain for Susan Storm for the past few days, and I couldn't really come up with a lot. So I kind of went with Tobias, his playoff history. Hopefully that changes in Detroit this year because, he's been super solid this year, but you know how he's disappeared in the past in Philly. Like the Philly fans did have a reason to hate him. Like he was kind of asked to do a little bit more than what he is, but the contract he had was, when you have a contract like that, fans going to expect a lot. So
Yeah, he's getting
hopefully,
paid max dollars.
and 0 points in the playoffs, that's a rough look. So hopefully with the Pistons, he will not be Susan Storm in that way. But Tobias, his playoff past has been kind of invisible.
Yeah.
I think he was very much miscast in that role in Philly. Like as good as he was as a Clipper and doing a lot of things he was doing there, like really just that's where he expanded his offensive game, was probably at his best in his career. To bring him in and essentially ask him to be the second scoring option outside of Joel Embiid, because even though he was the number 3 at the time, like coming in with like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, like Simmons wasn't really the scorer, so he was almost kind of coming and carrying that load. With the Pistons, I don't think he'll necessarily have to do that as much, but in this series, they're going to need someone else other than Gabe to be able to create their own offense and hit their shots, and they're going to be leaning on Tobias in this one for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sean. Any other Fantastic Four talk from the fantastic co-hosts of the 313 Connect?
I think it's just one of those things where, again, you could go a lot of different directions for it. I mean, if those are our combinations, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm interested how we all kind of had the different interpretation of the Human Torch, but at the same time, when you say the Human Torch, it sounds like someone who's jacking up threes and hitting them like no tomorrow. So it's like Yeah, no, it's a fun conversation.
Okay, pivoting. Who do you guys want to see at LCA this year from the Dark Days Pistons? We're not going to talk about, Chauncey Billups needs to be there. Rip Hamilton needs to be there. Tayshaun Prince. We're not going to talk about any of those guys. We're going to talk about the guys from the last time the Pistons won a playoff game. It's been many years. There's been a lot of players that have been fan favorites. Will the Thrill Bynum is one. I don't. With his legal history as of recent, I don't know if he will be welcome into LCA. But what are some dudes you kind of want in here? For me, my favorite Piston growing up was Greg Monroe. Hate me for it. Come on, shoot me. I loved Moose. He needs to be in there. I want to see him on the Jumbotron at least 3 times in this series, man.
You know who deserves far better from the city of Detroit and just from the Pistons fan base as a whole is Blake Griffin, who really got the raw end of the deal with the way that he was treated with the Pistons. I mean, utterly blindsided, and before Luka Doncic was probably the coldest trade we've seen. At least Luka was sent to LA.
Yeah.
Blake was sent packing from LA and had to go to Detroit and went to a franchise that was in a tumultuous period, essentially was traded to try and save Stan Van Gundy's job. And when that didn't happen, he still came back next year, had one of his best seasons of his career, essentially sacrificed his knee and whatever was remaining of his all-NBA level playing days to get the Pistons to the playoffs. And how was he thanked the next seasons? And when he's back in not a Pistons uniform, he's booed off the court because there was a perception that he was not dunking in Detroit because he was waiting for his next team. Regardless of if it's true or not, the guy still gave a lot more to Detroit than he necessarily needed to. And whether he's back, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be back for this playoff run by any stretch, but if he's ever back in the building with, say, Amazon or whichever media venture he's with next, he deserves far better from Detroit than he's been given in the past, because I thought the booing of Blake Griffin was pretty piss poor.
Yeah, it's hard not to mention some of the things that, like you mentioned, the not dunking thing. People can have their opinion, but we'll never actually know. The biggest thing for me was that Brooklyn Nets Pistons game where he just got into it with Sadiq Bey. He got into it with Isaiah Stewart. That's former teammates going at it. But I can definitely see where there's some fans who would take that and be like, wow, I hate this guy. He's going after our young guys. Like, these are guys that looked up to him. And Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart were pissed. I mean, they got into it. But I think at the end of the day, that's not a reason to boo somebody who did a lot for your franchise. Like, with what you said, he wasn't asked to. I mean, he was made to. So,
yeah, he did not sign up for it.
Nope.
For sure. And speaking of the playoffs and him, like, kind of getting you guys there and not dunking, I mean, he played in that series on one leg. So how much did that factor into, like, Pistons fans' perception of him not dunking and stuff? Because his knees were shot, and he still played in that series, tried to at least will you guys to a victory. Does that matter at all to Pistons fans? Or
and really when Pistons fans are talking about Blake not dunking and their qualms with that is when he came back in the 2021 season, before he went and played for the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, it was apparent that Blake was a lot better in the games against the big markets, where he was essentially, it was essentially a tryout for his next team. But if you were paying attention to that team and hearing how they were talking before the season and during the season, it was very apparent that they were tearing things down. They were heading in a different direction, and it was a direction that Blake wasn't looking to head in. So the writing was on the wall on that one, and it was a hole that the Pistons put themselves in. So for Blake to get blamed for any of that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a potential Hall of Fame player, and he saw what they sent Andre Drummond out for, and we saw what the perception was even for Drummond. When he got the ball, he was booed. Like, what did he do to deserve that? Like, when you're talking about Blake Griffin, I don't agree with the booing, but if somebody were to say, I hate him because of that Brooklyn Nets game where he trashed on Sadiq Bey, trashed on Isaiah Stewart, I could say, okay, I mean, I guess, whatever. But for Andre Drummond, what did he do wrong other than just kind of be we've talked about Tobias Harris being miscast. I think the perception on Drummond, I think he was almost miscast in his role in Detroit because I feel like we tried to put him in that number one option. And when that didn't work, we got Reggie Jackson, and Andre Drummond was still the featured player, and we just kind of tried to plug up holes instead of saying, Drummond, this is who you need to be. Like, you need to be a guy who can play off of. And, I mean, obviously with Jalen Duren, he got a Cade Cunningham, and so it's not like Duren could be the centerpiece. It's just a really interesting thing when you're talking about Andre Drummond because and I'm ranting right now, and I'm getting a little heated just thinking about it because there's no point in booing that man for what he did for this franchise.
I mean, he was. It's to me, it's like you're right. He was miscast in his role, but I think the reason why it carries a different weight. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Is because he's essentially the face of that era of Pistons basketball. Like it or not, like he is the visual representation, the centerpiece of what that era represents. And I think to me, the lasting image of Andre Drummond in a Pistons uniform, unfortunately for him, is Chauncey Billups calling him out for his effort on national television during a playoff game in one of the most pivotal games of his career, right? Like straight up calling out his effort, calling out his intensity, his will in the game. When you have your former Finals MVP on a playoff broadcast calling out your player's motor on a Pistons team, that's pretty hard to shake, right? I don't think a lot of fans necessarily think about that, but I think it was kind of emblematic of why that era just didn't work. And like you said, Leggy, that was a Tom Gores thing of trying to run that back and hold on to that for a little too long. Stan Van Gundy reportedly wanted to break that up multiple times, but Tom just told him no. And obviously there were quite a lot of sagas with Andre in Detroit, right? There was the Jet McCurdy stuff. There was, the good and bad days with Reggie Jackson, the Andre Drummond days. There were a lot of up and downs, but to your point, like he clearly has a lot of love for the city of Detroit, and he still has some of the records for the Pistons in terms of rebounding and a lot of different things. So I definitely think he doesn't deserve the hate that he gets, but at least to me, it makes a little more sense than Blake just for some of those reasons.
Yeah, that's very fair. Brennan, you have anything else on that one? Like, do you have any players that you would say, hey, this guy needs to be back here?
Well, I don't have somebody that needs to be back there, but I think somebody that would try to ride the coattails of the success is Brandon Jennings.
Yeah.
Like if you guys have been following his little situation with Patrick Beverly lately, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of funny seeing him kind of ride the success of that podcast that he isn't the owner of. So I could see a world where he's trying to come back, and he used to be Super Milwaukee Bucks, and now he wants to, he played for the Pistons and made the playoffs, so now he wants to come back and be I'm a Detroit Pistons at heart too, but not really. You've been a Bucks and Six guy your whole life, so I kind of don't want you to come here and try to, ride their success that the Pistons are seeing right now. But I can see him trying to do that though.
Yeah, it does feel like he's definitely been more outspoken for the Pistons as of recent, since the success has started to come back. Sean, maybe I'm missing a few instances in the past 5 years where he's been really gung-ho about them. But if you're talking about Brandon Jennings, if he was a guy who didn't tear his Achilles, the Reggie Jackson saga wouldn't have happened, and he would have been kind of one of those Pistons legends, like ingrained in this Pistons, that Pistons rebuild, and it might not have gone anywhere. But he could have been so vital for this team, man.
Yeah, it's
without the Achilles, he'd be better without the Achilles tear, obviously. Mm-hmm. Efficiency was never the strong suit. Collapse in the defense and playmaking was never the strong suit, but he was a bucket.
That Spurs game winner.
Yeah, he was a bucket getter.
That 2.5, 3 week stretch he had in Detroit before he tore his Achilles was like, it was unlike anything we had seen in a Pistons uniform in a long time. Another Piston I could see as far as like someone who's always kind of been ride or die, even during some of the dark days, Jonas Jerebko. Is someone who always still represents Detroit, still kind of in the area, I think. So that's someone I wouldn't be shocked if he came back and was around in some form. But I think when you talk about like those dark days, like in general, it's hard to think of guys who like are going to want to proudly be around that franchise or like
Yeah.
are going to be recognized in any fashion, just because if we're being honest, if we're just being real, there wasn't really a whole lot to claim and celebrate during those days. There wasn't really a lot of guys who really had like long tenures. Like Isaiah Stewart was the first rookie to get extended beyond his first contract since Andre Drummond. So there wasn't necessarily a lot of guys who were around to build some of those relationships and some of those roots in the city.
Yeah, Killian Hayes was the longest tenured Piston for quite a while. I mean, that's what I remember about that. And you're really right, and that's what makes
drafted a few minutes before some of those other guys. That was really the only reason why.
You're right, Sean, when you're talking about. I mean, not a lot of people are going to want to stand with that, and the Pistons probably wouldn't want to honor a lot of that. But it's almost like the Pistons fans were so miserable that they attached themselves to some pretty gnarly players, and I think that means a lot. I mean, you're talking about some of these not great franchises who hold on to these players. I have a friend who is obsessed with Rodney Stuckey to this day, talks about that man nonstop. Hamilton Hoops, I'm calling you out right now, baby.
Hamilton Hoops, see a therapist, my guy. Good God.
I might need to go to therapy too. I'm not obsessed, but I am a Rodney Stuckey fan though. I like that number. I like that number 3, man. You get to the rim.
Yeah, but
number 3 also represents the division he played in college.
Oh man, Eastern Kentucky or
yeah.
Yeah.
That was nasty, Sean. I'm thinking about that one. I'm trying to think about what's a smooth transition here. Still talking about this, but man, that was a diss right there.
Yeah. Speaking of the elite around the league and Rodney Stuckey, how about that?
Guys, there is a first round playoffs coming up, as we all know, and I think that's fairly obvious. Not a good transition there, Sean. You really threw me off there, brother. But we're looking here. We're looking here at the playoff standings. We're looking here at what's going to happen. So we're going to predict this first round here, and we're going to play a game where we're going to keep track of our picks, and we're going to tally up some points, and we're going to have a winner after this first round.
Nice.
So let's say the first seed Thunder. Let's say we pick Thunder to beat the 8th seed. And then if the Thunder win, we get 1 point. If the 8th seed were to win, we wouldn't. But if I said the 8th seed's going to beat the Thunder, they win, we get 8 points. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. We can probably count some of these pretty easily. Are we all having the 1 seeds win?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Oh, come on.
You're talking about the 8 seed.
Seriously doing this.
You're talking about the Mavericks or Grizzlies, right?
I think we can get, I want to say 2, but I know we can get a game for sure.
That's not what we're saying here, Brennan.
Yeah, we're talking about the series.
We're talking about the series, brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is there even to contemplate? I'm sorry. I get you love Tyler Hero and your boys, but you have your second best player this season's Andrew Wiggins.
He's barely been there.
It's still Bam.
Okay. He had a great season, though.
Guys, also the thing with the play-in, especially in the East this year, when I watch it, these teams are celebrating like, yes, we won a play-in game. Like, yeah, congrats, you get to play the Celtics, one of the best teams of all time. Like, good for you, Orlando. Oh, Miami, you just won a thriller in OT. Go play Cleveland, one of the best teams this year, if not the best team this year.
There's some real first 4 vibes to this year's play-in, especially on the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these matchups we've seen happen quite a bit, but I don't see a world where the Heat are the strongest 8th seed as far as experience, as far as coaching, culture, all those different things. But listen, man, there's not an 8th seed that's going to be even remotely close to good enough to beat this Thunder or Cavs team.
Nope.
They're just not. I'm sorry.
And it sucks because I want to talk a lot more about Cleveland. I want to talk a lot more about OKC, but we can do that next time. We can do that after this first round series when we're talking about a 1-4 or a 1-5 series. We can get a little bit more in the weeds there. So, okay. 2-7, I actually have the Warriors over the Rockets. And that might be a hot take, but I don't think so. Because when you're talking about teams need to get over the hump, Houston needs to get over that Golden State hump that they've had for what, like 10, 11, 12 years now? Has it really been that long? Well, probably not 10, 11, 12, but like 10 years, maybe 9 years. I don't think they're ready yet. You're still talking about Steph Curry in his prime. You're talking about Jimmy Butler, one of the best defenders who can go on whoever is scoring on Houston and stop them. And you have Draymond Green as well. It's such an elite team still. And I wish they had Jimmy Butler this full year so we could have seen a full sample size of what this team was actually capable of. Houston, there's just some players who have too much inconsistency. Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet. You're talking about Jabari Smith Jr. as well. I want to see them perform. Fred we've seen, but in Houston we haven't yet. I want to see those players perform in the playoffs before I can actually point them over a team that has had their number for years and years.
Yeah. I think the Warriors have a really strong chance here. I think this is probably the, in terms of winnability, probably one of, if not the best draws they could have gotten in the first round. But they have a lot of turmoil right now. Jonathan Kuminga is benched and apparently just out of the lineup. There's already talk about him not being on the team next year. The Rockets are a young, hungry team that's up and coming. They have a better coach than they had throughout any of those Warriors Rockets runs, with all due respect to guys like Mike D'Antoni. I really like Ime Udoka and the culture that he has in Houston. My biggest concern with the Rockets is who are they going to turn to as far as their bucket getter? Who's going to be the guy that's going to score for them, that's going to set things up for them? But having said all that, I'm going with the Rockets. I think they, are young and hungry and scrappy. Amen Thompson is been looking like an absolute animal. I think Steph Curry, if he's getting guarded by Amen, is going to have a really tough time. And as this series goes on, if the physicality and the grittiness weighs in, then I think that Houston could really get a control of this series. So I'm going with Houston.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Warriors in 7 here. I think Amen is gonna be a great matchup on Steph Curry. Just his athleticism, his stamina, his length, and all of that stuff. But Ime kind of recently talked about a man being on the perimeter is kind of hurting their rebounding. We talked about some lineup changes that he might throw in there. So I wonder, will he start off being the primary on Steph? But when he does guard Steph, which he will at some point, that's going to be a great matchup. But I just think that playoff Steph and playoff Jimmy, and Jimmy Butler as a second option, he doesn't have to carry the load anymore like he used to in Miami. He can play off somebody better than him. I think that's a lot. And I, too, am concerned about the Rockets down the stretch. Their score, like, who do they go to? It could be a good thing that they're kind of unpredictable. Maybe it's Şengün, maybe it's Green. But I think consistently I trust Steph and Jimmy down the stretch more than I trust the Rockets. But their team defense is one of the best in the league. So this will be a scrappy, gritty, type of series. I don't see like an offensive explosion in this series. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. But I'm going to go Warriors in 7.
Yeah, what I'll say about the Amen Thompson, Steph Curry, who have been touted as the Curry stopper. I kind of want to wait till that happens. I kind of want to wait till it happens to an elite level to say that he's going to be able to do it.
I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I'm saying if there's anyone that has the chance to do it, it's Amen Thompson.
Yeah, that's fair.
And no stopper has ever been as athletic as Amen. So
yeah,
like that was a joke. Yeah, but those long athletic guys have presented some challenges on Steph in the past.
And
nobody's you're not gonna stop Steph Curry.
You want to talk about conditioning too? Like Amen, like he's not going to be peeling over, like trying to catch his breath. When Steph's running all around the court, he's gonna be licking his lips, ready to go, man.
He has the strength and he's slithery enough to get through those screens. So
okay, let's.
Jalen Green on the other hand, Curry gets him. That's barbecue chicken.
Let's skip the 3-6 Pistons Knicks. Let's get to that after the break here in a little bit. Let's get right to 3-6 Lakers Timberwolves. I mean, this is kind of the toughest one for me. I think if you're looking at start power, you really want to pick the Lakers. If you want to pick a good counter where at their ceiling, that's a really good defensive team there, and if Anthony Edwards is doing what he does, I'm still going to go with the Lakers here. I don't think they're going to get much farther than round 2, if at all. I don't think they're going to make it past round 2. But I think that they have the star power, and sometimes when you get to the playoffs, that's all it takes. And you can talk about all these different matchups that they are going to have to deal with. You're going to talk about an older LeBron. You're going to talk about Luka only being there less than half a season. But, I mean, at some point, you just have to rely on those stars until it doesn't work.
I really just wonder, how do you stop LeBron and Luka in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Like, how do you contain both of them? Two of the smartest players in the NBA, two of the best playmakers to ever do it. Playoff Luka is a monster, man. Like, he is literally one of the best players ever in the playoffs already.
Yeah, those are two guys. Sorry, I was just going to say those are two guys where it's hard to double them because they're always going to make the right decision. So if you're doubling one of them and they get it to the other one, there's going to be two guys wide open. I mean,
like, that was kind of how the Thunder kind of neutralized Luka last year, but they still lost the series.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely I'm going with the Lakers, and I think they can go. I think the Lakers could actually go all the way. They have that type of team that it could happen. I'm not picking them, but they could go to the finals.
And we have our resident Minnesota Drake fan here in Sean Murphy. What do you got here, Sean?
Wow. Minnesota Drake fan. Gotta giving me that combo. Thank you for that. that talk about throwing me off. Good God.
Yeah, that's never dying.
Going into this video, I would have probably told you Lakers in 6 or 7. However, I'm going to play the points here, and I'm going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And part of the reason why I agree with you guys that if you're to make a list of the top 3 players in the series, the Lakers have 2 of them. There's no disputing that, right? But I think I think one thing that people are massively overlooking with the Lakers is their lack of size.
Yeah.
And how much this roster really does require the heavy lifting of a Luka Doncic and a LeBron James to be at their top level and to be amazing. And no doubt that come playoff time, both of those guys will be ready to go and do exactly that. But if you want to talk about a really difficult matchup for the Lakers to get round 1, it's this Minnesota team that's super long, that is really versatile, that they can play small, they can play big, they can play Rudy and Nas together, they can play just Nas at the 5. They have really long, really versatile wings. They have Jaden McDaniels who who can make life really difficult for a LeBron or a Luka, right? And then on top of that, you have Anthony Edwards, who is coming off of this historic playoff run last season, who's been pretty frustrated with how things have been going in Minnesota throughout the majority of this season, and probably looks at this type of series where he's going up against LeBron and Luka and probably wants to prove he's the best player in the series. That could be either to the Wolves' detriment or to their favor. So to me, just again, with how this game's played, with how we're racking up the points, I'm going with Minnesota here just to make up my Rockets prediction there. But also, again, just if you're talking about like a team that's really set up to exploit a lot of the weaknesses that the Lakers present, I think that's going to be Minnesota. I think the Lakers are going to win a title within the next 2 to 3 years. I think they will. Because having a Luka Doncic, your chances are that strong. However, I just think the holes on their roster are too big for them to make a run and win 4 out of 7 games against a Minnesota or an Oklahoma City.
Oh, yeah. That Oklahoma City would dominate the Lakers. I think they just have the defense to be able to mitigate going against 2 all-time great scorers and passers.
Isaiah Hartenstein alone makes that series really hard for the Knicks. And then you throw in Chet Holmgren, and then it's like, how are they even going to get a rebound?
I will say for the Lakers part about the size, I hear you on the rebounds too, like factoring that in, especially Rudy Gobert. But I don't really think that the Timberwolves are a team that can really exploit the mismatches that the size mismatches. Now Gobert will be dominant on the glass, but Redick has preached gang rebounding all year, so they're kind of used to that because they've been small all year, obviously. But Gobert isn't the type of play like people always talk about him getting.
Are you slandering playoff Rudy?
Yeah, I might have to.
Okay.
No, but I
never happened.
I do think that his perimeter defense is kind of over exaggerated. My biggest thing with him is how he cannot take advantage of those smalls guarding him. Like if they stick Dorian Finney-Smith on you, we're not gonna feed you post ups for 5 possessions in a row, but you got to be able to score sometimes. And I don't think that he can take advantage of those matchups. And Nas at the 5, I think the Lakers are looking forward to that. I don't really think Nas is. He's not gonna like crush their defense because, like you said, they still got Jaden out there, and in the playoffs on the ball is at a different level. But I don't. I know the Lakers are small, and that can hurt them this year. But I don't think Minnesota is the team that can expose that in terms of like scoring on mismatch. Now rebounding, we're gonna see. But they, like I said, they've been game rebounding all year, so they're kind of used to that already.
Jackson Hayes is listed as 7 feet tall, but I swear to God, if you watch him play basketball, it is like either that listing is like 2 or 3 inches too tall, or he is just the smallest 7-footer on the face of the planet.
He's thin too, man. He is thin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is he's only 220.
Yeah. Yep. It looked like it.
Yeah, and so I think to your point, like at first I was like, well, who on the Lakers will be looking forward to Nas being a 5? And that's probably Luka's and LeBron's of the world, especially if they can get them to switch, on them. But again, to me, if you're talking about like keeping Ant out of the paint and not letting him do his damage and all of those different things that go into it, I think the Lakers holes really start to show in a 7-game series. I very well could be wrong. Listen, man, JJ Redick has been awesome this year. I've been extremely impressed with him as a coach. Luka as a Laker has been everything as advertised, if not even better. LeBron James, his ability to adapt alongside other stars and to still play awesome on the fly, as much as I hate to say it, makes his GOAT conversation even in his argument even stronger. But, again, just when you look at the matchups and once you really can start getting exploited in a 7-game series, I think a team like Minnesota is, like you said with Rudy, I don't expect him to really take much impact or really take much advantage of that in the interior, but I think guys around him could. So, I mean, I'll say this: I don't think it's a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination, and I think this is set up along with our Pistons series to be the best first round series in the entire playoffs.
Oh, 100%.
Shout out Austin Reeves too. I feel like he is X factor that he could average like 25 or he could average like 7 or 16 and be inefficient. So, but he could swing the series. Austin Reeves had a great season so far.
Yeah, that white boy can hoop, man.
Yeah,
sure. He got game.
The exciting whites. I mean, have you guys seen that from the Eagles?
Yep, he is doing wonders for the exhilarating whites. Him, Tyler Hero, like
JJ.
It is a. We are doing it.
Not to get too far off, but who is the best white boy between those two?
Oh man. Oh, I mean, if you're talking about like who's the best white right now, it's probably got to be Tyler Hero. But Austin Reeves isn't very much off, and then you throw in the aura factor of him being on the Lakers, and then his nickname's AR-15.
Oh God!
Like come on, that's like Southern white boy jersey hanging over his over the wall, like written all over it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, Southern white dream right there.
Yeah,
his handle is crazy. My homies asked me recently who I had. I go Hero slightly, but I get Austin Reeves because of the handle and stuff. So it's a good conversation.
Okay, so we're sitting at 44 minutes right now into the stream. I was hoping to keep this at about an hour, so we're gonna pivot to quickly getting through these 4 or 5 games. Nuggets, Clippers. I have Nuggets. I think the Clippers are great. It's the Clippers' year every year until Kawhi gets hurt. I think we're bound to see something crazy happen for them. And then if we're talking about Pacers, Bucks, Damian Lillard's cleared to play, guys. So I don't know if I want to just say that is the tipping factor there. I think Indiana's youth and their speed has the ability to get past the old guys, especially on that Milwaukee team. I'm going to go with Indiana there, sadly. I wish I wasn't picking another Central Division rival. I would either way, I guess, with that one.
I was going to say, yeah. I'm going to go Clippers. The Nuggets turmoil with firing their coach. Bad defense. Clippers being hot at the right time. Like you said, Kawhi being injured is obviously the tipping point. But if he's healthy, that team has been sensational. Zubac is my most improved. Harden is all NBA for me, so I'm gonna go Clippers. Yeah, Dame getting clear, man. I don't know. That's kind of scary to me. Blood clots are nothing to play with. But if
Yeah.
he's clear, they obviously they know something. Giannis dominates the Pacers. Didn't get a chance to play them last year. I'm gonna go with Giannis and them. I'm gonna go Bucks.
Give me the Clippers in 6. They've been top 3 in net rating over the last month. This is their head coach's. He's coached 3 games as the NBA head coach, and he's going up against Tyronn Lue with Jeff Van Gundy as his lead assistant. That is about as much of a coaching mismatch as we perhaps will ever see in the history of the postseason, especially if you're talking about experience and, just the situation that Denver's really throwing in their head coach. He very well could be their head coach going forward and could be a great coach, but to do this to him right before the postseason, to not let him pick his staff, to not even allow himself to get a rhythm of like what he even wants to be as a coach, I think is really putting himself behind the 8 ball here. And the fact that you have Kawhi Leonard not only feeling good, but he played 46, 47 minutes of their final regular season game just because he was feeling good and could. Like, if they're getting that Kawhi Leonard back, I'm sorry, with what's going on in Denver, I'm as much of a Jokic apologist and supporter as you will find on the face of the planet. I feel really good about what the Clippers are doing right now. And then on the Eastern Conference side of things, as exciting as it is that Dame's going to be ready to go and that he's going to be in this series, I got to go with the Pacers. Momentum wise, they're the team that's playing with a lot of the juice and a lot of the momentum. They won this playoff series last year. And even though we're getting Damian Lillard back, it's just still hard to envision how much of 100% Dame we're getting, because this is an unprecedented injury to be returning from just a month after being sidelined. So that's a lot to ask for even Damian Lillard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's valid.
So
I'm more so banking on Giannis going on his 2018 LeBron stuff, because Giannis has been spectacular this year. So I'm kind of banking on that a little bit.
Yeah, that boy's Hemi Neutron, boy genius. I can't blame you one bit.
We could easily see the Bucks dominate their way to a title. And I don't think at the end of it we'd say, "Oh yeah, I could have saw that happening." I think at this point they're being a little bit underrated.
Let's not
It could happen.
go that far.
It could happen.
That roster is pretty trash.
If they beat Boston,
Giannis and Dame.
If they beat Boston, that would be Giannis must have averaged 45 a game.
Yeah. That would be.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Anyways, moving right on here. So we're gonna be tallying up these totals. Do you guys remember who? We'll figure it out. We'll send a text in the group. Figure out our picks.
We can figure this out offline. I know who I picked.
Cool. Okay, now boys, we're gonna be moving to From Half Court with Sean.
What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today. I'm joined by my boys from 313 Connect, DJ and Brennan. Boys, it is that time. It is that time of the season. A lot happening in the NBA. The Detroit Pistons are about to face off against the New York Knickerbockers in the first round. For the first time in 6 years, the Pistons are postseason bound. The last time they have won a postseason game, George W. Bush was wrapping up his second term as the president. I don't even think the Nintendo Wii was out yet. That just sets the scene of where we were. And for guys in the Detroit Pistons, they honestly were probably just finishing up or were just starting kindergarten. Just to give perspective of how long it has been since this team has done the impossible. But now, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Sar Thompson, J.B. Bickerstaff, and the rest of the crew are gearing up to go to the Garden and face off against the New York Knicks, who this team was assembled and was built to be one of the contenders in the NBA. This Boston team was built to beat the Celtics, and they haven't beat any of the top 3 teams all season. Now they're playing against a young, fiery Pistons team who, for a lack of better terms, is playing with house money. DJ, my guy, Leggy, I will start with you. How are you feeling about the Pistons' chances going into this series? And if the Pistons do pull this off, why will they have done so?
Yeah, if you're talking about this Pistons team, they're young. I mean, you're looking at the mileage on these Knicks players throughout the season already. You're talking about the Pistons who can get up and down the court before the Knicks can even look ahead. So we're talking about a potential breakout from Cade Cunningham as well, looking like one of the elite stars, faces of the NBA. But I think the biggest matchup here is going to be the center position. We've talked about this before at length. Jalen Duren and Karl Anthony Towns are going to kind of decide what happens here. And if it gets to a point where Jalen Duren's not cutting it, Cat is dominating, we have to bring in Isaiah Stewart, we're losing a lot on the other end because Jalen Duren's not on the floor. So I think that's going to be kind of the swing position in this one.
Without a doubt. Brennan, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, man, they definitely got a shot. This isn't one of those 3-6s where it's like, it's clear cut. The Pistons definitely got a shot. And if they do win, of course, Cade has to be spectacular. Cade, I said this last time we were on, he has that game that can be a playoff riser because he can get it from all three levels. So if they do win, he's sensational, but he is getting a lot of help from his guys. If they win the series, Malik Beasley must have averaged about 17. Tim Hardaway must have been hot, and they couldn't leave him wide open. Tobias must have showed up and dominated in the post, the mismatches, and dominated from the short corner and stuff, and dominated from corner threes and all of that. The center position being a swing in the series, I definitely agree with. I actually do think we will see a lot more Isaiah Stewart than Jalen Duren. I know you give up a lot on offense, but I think with this Knicks team and Cat in particular, you got to find a way to kind of slow down him or Brunson. Asar, we messed up with Brunson, and either Asar will lock him down or he'll be in foul trouble. It's kind of no middle ground with that one. Because Jalen Brunson is going to try to do his tricks to get Asar in foul trouble. So either Asar is smart and not really playing into that, and Brunson's water is shut off, or like I said, he'll be on the bench, and we'll see more around Holland and stuff. But Stu, I think he can actually not take Cat out of the series, but like he can definitely get in his head and play those mental games with Cat. Cat has shown that he can kind of be vulnerable to that kind of stuff. But on the other coin, Isaiah Stewart has to keep his cool in the series. They cannot afford for Stu to have some moments like that we've seen in the past, because he is very important in this series, I feel like. So I want to see Duren guard a stretch five and hold his own, but realistically, I do think that Cat will kind of take advantage of his stretch five abilities, and I think we'll see a lot of Stu in this series.
Here's a guy to me that's being overlooked on the Pistons end that if they win this series could be a big reason why. How about Dennis Schroeder, the guy they went and got at the deadline to be the secondary ball handler while Jaden Ivey is out due to injury? The guy who's been on a lot of different teams throughout his career in the league, has a lot of postseason experience, has a lot of national team experience. The guy's played in a lot of big games, and someone who's, for my money, pretty underrated and has been playing really good basketball for the Pistons. If he can go in and average 12 plus points a game and continue to set the offense, be someone that can help Cade play more off ball, and someone that can give you consistent minutes, I think that's going to be something that's going to be really big for the Pistons as far as winning this series. I want to get your guys' picks on this series, but before we do, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about what's going on throughout the league. Because, boys, there have been 3 executives that have been hired throughout the league, and all 3 of them have some form of Michigan ties. One of them was already hired. It's Rob Pelinka. He got extended with the Los Angeles Lakers for making the greatest single trade in the history of his career and perhaps in the history of the league. The worst trade if you're on the other side of it. But for Rob Pelinka, you're getting a new whip. You're redoing your wardrobe. You're sitting front center court for the rest of your career, and no one can ever question you again because you just went and got Luka Doncic. For the Sacramento Kings, Scott Perry, former Pistons executive with Joe Dumars in the early 2000s, is now the lead executive that will be running basketball operations for the Sacramento Kings. And then last, but most certainly not least, Joe Dumars, former president, Pistons legend, the man who has been responsible for all 3 Pistons championships in one way or another, is now running Trajan Langdon's former team, the New Orleans Pelicans, going back home to his state of Louisiana. Guys, to tie this back to the Pistons, my question to you is what does Trajan Langdon need to do this offseason so that he, in a few years, doesn't find himself having his job replaced as well? And what do you think of some of these former Pistons execs getting opportunities throughout the league? I'll start with you, Leggy.
Let's go to Brennan real quick. We have a couple technical difficulties I'm working through.
Oh, I apologize.
No problem.
Okay.
I'll start with you.
Well, I think that Rob Pelinka is obviously set for life. The heist of the century. I think he's the head of basketball operations now too, plus the GM role, and rightfully so, man. Like, first of all, again, Luka, the unthinkable. But second, he didn't give up Austin Reeves.
Yeah.
Like, if you trade Luka, which is, you don't do that anyways, but if you do trade him, you get everything the Lakers have. But Rob Pelinka was able to sweet talk one of his former Nike partners out of that and said, nah, how about we don't give you Austin Reeves and you just get AD and Max Christie, who is promising. Yeah, Rob is good for life. Joe Dumars, so excited to see him back. I know some people like to bring up, the end of the Pistons run, his decision-making and stuff, but being the architect of that greatest defense of all time in 2004 deserved another opportunity, so excited for that. And Scott Perry, man, in Sacramento, I just hope he gets a chance to do it right. Like the Kings need to restart. And I know it's hard. They went through a 17-year drought. They made the playoffs, tasted a little bit of success, so they probably don't want to go back to their dark days, but you got to restart, man. Sabonis, DeMar, Levine, you couldn't win a play-in game. You know what I mean? Malik Monk wasn't there, but I don't think you make the playoffs even if Monk was there. So I say you trade Sabonis. He already talking like he want to leave. You trade Sabonis. You get what you can for DeMar. Either you let Levine, either you trade him or you let his contract expire. I think his contract expires the season after next year, I think, or next season. I'm not sure. Either you trade him or you let him expire and you rebuild. You restart again because right now you will be the 11th or 10th seed for the foreseeable future. So, and for Langdon, I'm not really big on making big moves this offseason, man. I feel like you guys got a good thing cooking with the young guys. You made the playoffs without Ivy. I want to see Ivy back before we make these big moves. I know you Ivy and Duran extensions are eligible this season, so I don't want to see what Duran does in the playoffs if he gets extended, but I'm not really in the camp that you make a huge move to pair Cade with a superstar this year unless somebody just demands out and it's like it's just like a good deal. Like if Booker, which I don't think is going to happen, like says I want out, maybe you go try to get a guy like that, but I'm not really for the big move this offseason. Just kind of keep building what you guys have and let Ivy come back and see what you guys got.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say the quickest way he finds himself on the unemployment line is by making some form of move that just flat out doesn't work or, just flat out shouldn't have been made. Leggy, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, I think it would be extremely hard for him to do something that would put him on the hot seat remotely. I think I also want to look at Nico Harrison a little bit because we're talking about a guy who was hated worldwide because of the reach that Luka had. I don't think a lot of people remember how highly regarded he was before that trade because of all the things he was able to do to bring talent for Luka Doncic. I mean, Trajan Langdon, we love him, and I'm not going to say he's going to go down that Nico path. That would be horrendous and misinformation at that point. But it's impossible to say that he is not going to make a bad move. The severity of it, we don't know at this point, but every GM has a move that doesn't work. I don't think we've seen one from him so far that has made us really scratch our heads. So I just want to say something is going to happen, and there is going to be people that say, oh, what's going on here? But that's also a part of being a GM, part of being a president of basketball operations, because you're going to take some swings. You're going to get misses in the draft. You're going to get misses in free agency, maybe a couple trades. But the thing that he absolutely cannot do is get us locked into a ginormous contract that will set us back for years. Because if he was any other GM, or I guess let's say he was the Kings GM, they wouldn't have traded for Zach LaVine. They probably wouldn't have gone and got DeMar DeRozan. Because what is the point at that? I don't know what the Kings were doing at all this year because they lost out on De'Aaron Fox and all that. But tying it back to the Pistons, I think there would have to be some serious malpractice in getting rid of flexibility. But from talking about Trajan Langdon and from listening to him, hearing him talk, he preaches flexibility. And that's kind of something that goes a long way because you can get a big star eventually. But the way he's going to get them is it's not going to restrain us in any way. So it's a tough battle there. I know that was a long-winded rant there.
I think the biggest thing that the Pistons can learn from the Kings is for Tom Gores is allowing his coach and his front office to run the team and to run it according to their vision and their way. All you hear coming out of the Sacramento Kings is meddling from the ownership group and how their owner has had an interest in Zach LaVine for a number of years, who has essentially been low key getting ready to hire Scott Perry for weeks now, even though Monty McNair was still the general manager of the Sacramento Kings, right? Like if Tom Gores is starting to feel himself again and is trying to get back into running the day-to-day operations of the franchise and trying to make basketball moves, that's when you start to get worried. For Trajan to even be brought up in a Nico Harrison conversation, it would take, trading a Cade Cunningham to even begin to have that comparison. And that's just not a reality that we're going to see here in Detroit, especially if Cade doesn't prompt it. I think the big thing I think is going to be the test for a Trajan Langdon, especially with his relationship with the fan base, is the second that he starts talking about trading one of these young core guys, because I think there is a section of the fan base that once they start hearing about a trade, about like Jaden Ivey being traded to another place, that they start to have some real apprehension. So I don't think Trajan C is even remotely close to being hot. No. That wasn't the purpose of bringing this up, but it is to show that these seats do see quite a bit of movement each and every offseason, and all these GMs that see themselves getting fired or getting replaced are because of those key big decisions they made. Rob Pelinka's on the side of he made one of the greatest moves ever, perhaps locked up his career for the rest of his working life, right? Whereas Joe Dumars, he just got his first opportunity in 11 years because of the stigma of around a lot of the decisions that he made at the beginning and the end of his Pistons tenure. So a lot of interesting stuff. Going to be great to watch, but Leggy, I'm going to tie it back. I'm going to throw it right back to you, man, because it's time we predict this series.
Yeah. We're headed back to the 3-1-3 Connect. I really liked how that worked, Sean. Real quick, staying on that topic, a lot of people were talking, or what you were talking about was Trajan Langdon and what would he have to do to be on the hot seat. What about JB Bickerstaff? Because we've seen a history of coaches that have tremendous success that they get tossed to the curb 1, 2, 3 years later after getting that high recognition. Pistons got one in Dwayne Casey before. Pistons got one in Monty Williams before. Tossed both of them. We're out of there. I mean, you're talking about other coaches of the years. You're talking about other championship coaches. So JB Bickerstaff, he's at a high right now. What would it take for, let's say, 2 years from now, him to be off of the payroll?
I think it would have to be something similar to like Mike Brown in Sacramento. Like something like, you got these guys to the playoffs the first year. Second year, not so much success. Third year, you lost the locker room. And I don't want to put this on De'Aaron Fox, but there was a lot of conflicting reports that he kind of played a hand in that. So I think it would kind of have to come from like Cade, which I don't think, like we said, that's not what we're thinking right now. It would have to come from somebody like that saying, he's lost this, like to get somebody new in here. But I don't see a playoff loss this year doing anything because like you're nothing to lose, underdog, house money. So it have to be something like that. Somebody like a star saying, we don't want him anymore. He's lost the locker room.
You're talking about Cleveland. He was there and he was beloved those first few years, and he turned that team around. But as soon as the players started to feel a bit of it getting stale, they all turned on the locker room, and that's when the locker room turned to crap. And I don't want to say that's going to happen in this situation, but I am really intrigued to see how JB Bickerstaff from year 1 to year 2 can kind of change how he does things a little bit to make sure that it stays fresh and to make it so you can't get figured out. Because the Pistons this year were the perfect storm because they were so bad last year. There was such a drastic change this year to where, I mean, honestly, a lot of teams just didn't see them coming. So now that teams are going to see them coming next year, how is JB Bickerstaff going to counter that? Sean, do you have any insight on that?
I mean, let's just call a spade, guys. The coaching epidemic in the NBA is real. These guys are getting fired way too much, way too often. So if there's even a conversation about firing JB Bickerstaff in the next 2 or 3 seasons, something has gone awfully awry. I think a lot of times, whenever you see these coaching decisions happen, is because it's masking a lot of the flaws that the front office actually has put on this team. Now, having said that, for Detroit, if you're talking about what would put JB in the hot seat or what would find him in that similar situation to Cleveland, it's going to be that, because 9 times out of 10, when a coach is looking for a new job, it's because he's lost the locker room, he's lost his young star, and that's just as simple as it is. For JB, I think he's most likely to find a home in Detroit compared to a lot of his other places, because it is a city that does embody that type of energy and the way that JB likes to play basketball. I think the situation in Cleveland was utter, hog, just because of the fact that, you had Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland all missing at least 25 games last season. They lost to the Boston Celtics, who were the team that went on to win the championship. The only reason why JB Bickerstaff is coaching in Detroit right now and not in Cleveland is because Donovan Mitchell wanted a different coach. Yeah. So as simple as it is, those would be the reasons why. The only other thing I can think of is if Tom Gores or the ownership group panics and doesn't see this team making the progress as quickly as he would like to see them make it. But the simple truth of the fact is, if JB continues to do what he's done this season, which is to help this team improve upon the last year, to keep building the culture and the habits and the standards, and if this team still, if they continue to be a top 5, top 10 defense in the future, I don't see why they would even have to consider a coaching change. It's the only way that they would really even have to is if it's and again, it's the example everyone goes to, but it's from the Mark Jackson to the Steve Kerr, where you find the coach that's going to be able to take you over the hump and coach you in those deeper playoff scenarios. First, let's see him win a game. Let's see what he does with this series, and let's see what he does in the next couple of years to come. Because I think JB, with the job that he's done, has more than earned himself a leeway and a bit of a ramp here to make some mistakes to learn and grow with this roster.
Yeah. And we have 10 viewers in the chat right now. Thank you all for joining so far. Make sure you leave what you're liking in the chat. Let us know if you have Pistons or Knicks in this series. If you're in a Pistons podcast, hopefully you have Pistons here. We're going to be talking about Pistons Knicks now. So, boys, I want you to tell me in a short-winded statement how many games you think this is going and who's taking it. Brennan, let's start with you.
All right, fellas.
I set you up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Knicks in 6. The experience, the talent gap, I think it's gonna be a lot to overcome. But I do see Cade putting the world on notice that he is arrived. He is one of those guys. But I'm gonna go Knicks in 6.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I think the realistic part of me is saying that this is still, probably a little too early for Detroit. That this is going to be a series where they're going to learn a lot. I think we're going to start to see, some of the impacts of not seeing a Jaden Ivey. I'm going to go Knicks in 7. I think the Pistons could very well push this one all the way to its limits. I think there is very much a world where Detroit can win this one. If I'm just being realistic, using my brain, using my gut, I just, the Knicks are the team with the experience. They are the team with the expectations. They do have the more expensive roster. It is very from top to, for that 1 through 5 is a very competitive, legit roster. So I got to go Knicks just from that standpoint.
Yeah. The fan in me really wants to say Pistons in 7. But
yep.
Sean, like you were saying, it's hard to go against something you have not seen yet. And we've talked about that earlier on the show. I can't even remember the circumstance. But, I mean, when you're talking about the Cade Cunningham leap, we've seen it. We've seen everything we need to see this year to know that we have progress and we have a foundation and we have a future. If we win one playoff game, that is a huge success. That breaks a huge burden off of this franchise. So even if it's Knicks in 5, I would say that's still successful. I don't think it's going to be that. I mean, I'm going to say Knicks in 7 because I easily think it could be Pistons in 7 as well. I think it could really go either way in this series. I think, like we talked about earlier in the from half court segment, there's a lot of miles on this Knicks team. And we already saw Jalen Brunson come off an injury, and I'm just interested to see how he was injured, he came back and played, and now he had a little bit of a break again. How is he going to be? Because sometimes people think, he's fresh, he's going to be fine. But that starting again is huge off of coming off an injury. So I'm really interested to see how Jalen Brunson performs here.
I think there's a very realistic chance that Cade Cunningham's the best player from this series, game 1.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think it's funny watching a lot of the discourse online right now. Obviously, a lot of Knicks Twitter thinks it's laughable to even suggest that Cade Cunningham is better than Jalen Brunson, and I don't think I think what a lot of people like, even if Jalen Brunson's better in this series than Cade Cunningham right now, I do not think there's going to be a very long period of time where we are going to be saying that Jalen Brunson is better than Cade Cunningham. In fact, in a week and a half, we might be saying that Cade Cunningham's the best player in this series, and it's not even a conversation.
I think that's almost a guarantee for me, because you're looking at the way Cade can play. You're looking at the way Jalen Brunson plays. I think if the referees aren't controlling this game, aren't using their whistle so much, we're going to see how this Pistons team really is going to be able to defend Jalen Brunson and really be able to limit what he can do. And I'm not trying to talk down upon a player that we've seen do great things, but I think Cade Cunningham without the whistle as well, we've seen what he can do. I mean, what was the stat? He had the most 30-something point games without a whistle, or the third most. Did you guys see that stat? Sean, do you remember that off the top of your head?
I didn't see that stat.
Most games with 25 points and no free throws.
Yeah.
Like 7th all time or something like that.
It's something crazy. And we're talking about a guy that people called a bust for years until this year. So the rise of Cade Cunningham has been historic just as much as the tripling a win total here.
I hate that stat, by the way. I know we like to be ethical, but free throws are a part of the game. It helps your team. They got to give him his calls, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really true, because you're talking, everyone online's like, the most ethical hooper doesn't foul bait. Maybe I'd like him to foul bait a little bit, because if you can make that 28 points into 34 off of just maybe going into your defender, being a little animated, you're seeing an MVP player that's going to win MVP this year.
It's sad because he's getting fouled without even flopping. Like,
yes.
It's so many times where you hear the smack and you see his yellow skin turning red. Like, he don't even have to flop. Just give him his calls. He already a superstar. Just show him that respect.
For Real Sports, Cade is the 5th most games in NBA history with 35 points, 10 assists, and under 5 free throw attempts.
How do you find that so quick, Sean?
I just searched Cade Cunningham on Twitter.
Do you have the top 4?
No, it just says he's the 5th. That's all it says.
Gotcha, yeah. I would have loved to guess the top 4.
Sean, can you try to find that?
I can. I just don't think I'm going to. I'll give it a try.
Maybe StatMuse that. Top players with this. Anybody in the chat as well. I mean, we have 8 viewers in the chat right now. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you all being here so far. So, Brennan, we talked about the biggest swing factor a little bit ago for me being the center position. I mean, we're talking about a bunch of star-studded forwards as well. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. And I mean, if we want to consider some guard, like shooting guards like Josh Hart, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and now I'm getting to the not star-studded. But you have Asar Thompson as well.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris. What do you kind of see from that position? Like, what has to happen? What has to go right for each of these teams?
Well, from the Knicks' perspective, I just know that all of those guys are going to be tasked with, like, helping on Cade. I think OG is going to be the main assignment, but I just know for a fact Josh Hart is going to be scrambling over there, trying to get it out of his hands. Mikal Bridges is going to be scrambling over there, trying to blitz Cade. So, again, I just keep going back to Beasley, Hardaway, Harris. When those guys leave you to get the ball out of Cade's hands, you got to be ready. ready to shoot, ready to attack a closeout. You just got to be ready to attack because they are going to try to blitz Cade and just make somebody else beat them. So and OG has it on a tear as of late offensively, like scoring the ball, averaging like 22 over the past almost 20 games. So I'm wondering how he plays in the playoffs because he's obviously the third option. So and Jalen Brunson is back. A lot of those games came when Brunson was out. But funnily enough, he didn't really get more touches when he was going on that run. OG kind of has been a 3-and-D player all year. So can he continue this hot streak, or will I'll probably put Cade on OG, Cade or Tobias, probably. I wonder, can he keep scoring on those guys like he's been scoring the last month of the season? But Mikal Bridges has not been looking to shoot this year. He is
the hitch.
A disappointment. Yeah, he's been a disappointment this year. Josh Hart is bull on the offensive glass and will have that in his game. But scoring wise, he has those random games where he just randomly get 25. But against this Pistons defense, I don't really think that's going to be too much of a worry. Josh Hart going off, but OG is X factor to me. If he's averaging 20 like he was the last few weeks of the season, that is going to be a big swing for the Knicks.
Yeah, Sean, sorry I put that on you to find some pretty crazy stat there. Do you see anything?
No.
Okay. No. That's very fair. If you guys had to guess, that's probably a tough top because you said he was what? 5th?
It's a very specific stat line. With 30, it's most games with 35 points, 10 assists with under 5 3-throw attempts. That is such a specific stat line.
So if you could just say a player, who would you even think? Because, okay, it's so hard to nitpick some of these because it's such a nitpick stat. So trying
maybe
to think,
Magic.
That's a good one.
Magic.
Maybe because it's like earlier in the league's history when it was more physical, when there were less foul calls. Like that's the thing. A lot of these guys who are getting these stat lines are getting to the line like 10, 15 times a game at least.
Like Oscar Robinson might be maybe a good one there too. You could talk about Jason Kidd was kind of in that time where I could see that, but maybe not as that much of a scorer.
Exactly, the points.
Like
maybe Nash.
Yeah, that's the one I was just about to say as well. I feel
Maybe
like he
Nash
was a guy who was able to get to the line though. What about, guys, what about James Harden? He's not a guy who's been known to get to the free throw line.
Yeah, no, I can't even say that one with a straight face. Not a chance in hell. I don't even know if he's ever had an NBA game where he's gotten less than 5 free throw attempts a game. I know he has, but
yeah, maybe Steph. The assist is kind of a lot, but maybe Steph.
I could see that.
He can get to the line though. That's an underrated aspect of his game.
Yeah, but as a scorer of his magnitude though, he is still on the super low end. Like free throw attempts as a scorer, like how good he is.
He only attempts he only attempts on average 4.3 a game. That could very well be one.
Career or this season.
Yeah, if anybody is here an hour and 20 minutes in the comments that is a statistical wizard with docs and stuff like that, let us know. But guys, this was a fun one. I wish we could get a little bit more in depth to this Pistons Knicks series, but we've talked a lot about it over the last few weeks. I mean, you guys were on my show a lot, talking a lot, and now we're on the 313 Connect. We've talked about it a few times. We're an hour 20 in. I wish we could go for 3 hours, but that just doesn't make for great content. My back is hurting really bad.
I am plenty tired. We do not need to go 3 hours. I am good.
Yeah, but I got some Alfredo waiting for me. So
hell yeah, dude.
Ready to get into that too. So yeah.
But yeah,
fun, though, for sure.
To all the people watching live or recorded, I truly appreciate every single one of you for taking the time out of your day. This is an historic moment for the Pistons, but it's a historic moment for the fans as well. I mean, we're really at the center of all of this, and we all deserve this after what we've seen recently. And, I mean, after a 14-win season, you are on your phone at 10:50 p.m. if you're on Eastern time watching a Pistons podcast. That's some sicko work right there. So shout out to you guys. Brennan, Sean, let's do this again real soon. 313 Connect is going to be going strong. We're getting better every week. And by every week, I mean this is week 2. So
Every week, baby.
Playoff time, baby. The best holiday, man. The best holidays. Playoff time.
Yep, we'll be back
Amen to
soon
that.
with more content coming your way. Talk to you later. Streaming is a little delayed, right? So if I